Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Leighton's Loft. How are you today, Lou?
I'm doing very well. Very excited for this. It's been a while coming.
Absolutely. Evan, welcome to the program, but I'm going to have Lou properly introduce you so everyone who's watching knows who you are and what we'll be talking about today.
Evan Drellich is from The Athletic and an author of Winning Fixes Everything, and also was the beat writer for the Astros and up here in Boston for the Red Sox for a while here too. I can call you beat writer, right? That works.
Yeah, that's what I spent most of my career doing. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Well,
it's our pleasure.
It's nice to have the guy with the hottest book in the market right now, the hottest baseball book going right now.
If you say so, I believe you. I haven't seen any numbers. I see what the public sees. I could check Amazon, but they haven't sent me anything yet. So I hope that's the case.
Well, if it gives you any indication, when I went to do the graphic for the show, I went online just trying to find a picture of you and something to put up. And I saw about 10 places where you're using StreamYard, which is the platform we use. So I guess, great, he's using it. So you're doing a lot of appearances.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm going through the car wash, but it's been fun.
Interesting way to put it, Evan. Well, thank you again for joining us today. Why don't you tell everyone in the audience who maybe, isn't familiar with your background a little about who you are, kind of like what you've done, and then what led you to deciding to write about the topic of your new book.
Yeah, I'm I guess now a long enough time baseball writer. I had covered the Astros for the Houston Chronicle from 2013 to 2016. I had been a reporter in Boston both before and then after it. And Ken Rosenthal and I were the reporters who broke the sign stealing scandal for The Athletic in 2019. But I had done reporting on a bunch of other stuff with the Astros, having been their beat writer, questions about their management culture back now 9 years ago in 2014. I had been the first to report that McKinsey and Company, this outside, consulting firm, had been involved with baseball operations, literally on the ground, and talking to manager AJ Hinch about what kind of in-game moves they should do. So I knew there was a larger story here, So I had the sign stealing information was on top of that, but I also knew that there was more to the Astros story. And it's really a book that it took 2.5, 3 years, took longer than I wanted to write it, but the reporting is really a decade's worth of reporting, so I'm proud of it. And I'm just glad people have a chance to really read a full story now.
All right, this is the headline, and I want to get into some other stuff, but give us the recap and what we know, what we knew and what we know now through the book about the cheating scandal and how extensive it was.
Yeah, the book so there was kind of two forms of electronic sign stealing that were going on. There was what we call a base runner system. So the code in the video room, get that information in the dugout, get it to second base. Guy gets on second base, he knows what the code is, right? It was MLB considered it a gray area. Whether they should have considered it a gray area for a time, that's its own debate. But so we had a few teams doing that. Red Sox and Yankees were both fined for it in 2017. Ken Rosenthal and I subsequently reported on the Red Sox doing it again in 2018. The book newly has reporting that the Dodgers were doing it in 2017. So that was kind of when people say it was everywhere. It wasn't truly everywhere, or at least there was no evidence that it was everywhere. There were veteran contending teams that were doing this. They were using this new video replay room that MLB gave every team to their advantage. And then the Astros take it a step or multiple steps further. They get rid of the whole pretense of a base runner. You don't need somebody on base. They have a camera in center field that feeds a monitor that's hung up in the tunnel right behind the dugout, and you can communicate without a runner on base. Whatever pitch is coming, you can tell the hitter. And so it's entirely off the field, and generally in the sport that's considered more egregious.
When you say the code is the indicator code from the catcher that tells you which of the signals is legitimate.
Well, both of them, right? You would need to know two things, really. You need to know, which signal in the sequence matters. So let's say the guy's throwing down 6 different signs, 6 different fingers. You need to know which one matters. And then you also need to know what that one that matters indicates. So, okay, it's the 4th sign. That's the one that matters. Well, does 2 mean curveball? Traditionally it does, but teams can have different variations of it. So yeah, that's what I mean by the code. It's really 2 different things.
All right. So here's the question I have to ask. This has been bugging me since, and I haven't got it far. I was happy to get an advanced copy of the book, which I'm going to give away to someone here on the show at some point. But What I'm interested in is the video of Jose Altuve on the walk-off home run where they're ripping his jersey off and he's wired. Did that have anything to do with this?
The book does not find, nor did Major League Baseball find, that Altuve used a buzzer. Certainly the video circulated. We were aware of it. The commissioner has commented on it. It's weird. It's odd. There have been public explanations that are in the book and were out previously as well. Carlos Correa saying he had a tattoo he didn't like, and Altuve's wife had been mad that he had that Correa had ripped off his shirt in a previous walk-off type of situation. It's weird. It certainly gives you pause, but the book does not have reporting that that Altuve was using a buzzer. Everybody has denied that. When I'm asked about it, though, and people ask about Altuve's reputation, look, I think everybody knows he's a great baseball player. The fact that people can wonder about what he was up to and what the Astros in general were up to, even besides what is already known, that's an injury they inflicted on themselves, right? When you show you're willing to cheat in certain ways, well, people are going to sit there and go, what else are you capable of? And so some Astros fans think Altuve got dragged through the ringer. To an extent, you can agree with that. But there's also a question of, even if he didn't use the garbage can system that much, well, he was still a leader on the team. He was still there. He still enjoyed the results of it. And in the book, there's an anecdote where the Astros are about to go back home late in the 2017 season. And Altuve is excited that they're going back home. Why? Because they can use the system. He goes, we're going to get back to the boom, boom, boom. Makes a little noise. So, in a team-wide cheating scheme, how do you distribute blame? I'm not sure. It's something people can debate. But no evidence of the buzzers that I have.
Well, to that end, let's go to A.J. Hinch, who you just mentioned. A.J. Hinch was portrayed as being a reluctant participant in this, breaking some TVs, telling them to stop it at certain points. What did you guys find about A.J. Hinch's, the manager's participation in this?
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of it is dumped on Alex Cora, rightfully so. But A.J. Hinch is portrayed as a reluctant member of this whole conspiracy.
There's no question Hinch failed in his leadership capacity in not stopping this. Yeah, he does damage the monitor twice, the television monitor that's displaying the center field camera feed. But, he never had this demonstrative in front of the whole team, we're stopping this. He didn't take control. And he had been fired in Arizona. The first time he was a manager, he basically lost the clubhouse. He was put in a tough spot in Arizona. He was kind of the first of these, right out of playing managers, which later became in vogue, but, it didn't go well. The clubhouse didn't trust him, or at least some members of it didn't trust him. And he didn't want to lose his clubhouse, right? He didn't want to fight Carlos Beltran. He didn't want to fight Alex Cora. He didn't want to halt the winning. They had a good thing going, and as a manager, that's your job, right? And so there's no question AJ did not do what he should have done. No question.
It's interesting that you asked the question, Lou, and I appreciate you answering, Evan, about AJ Hinch. Of course, you can't answer this properly because you weren't in the position. But I was thinking for myself, right? I feel like I'm thinking about, how would I react? If I'm AJ Hinch, let's be honest, right? He was a major league ball player, but he wasn't by any means an upper echelon. He's ousted in Arizona. And although you want him to do the right thing, just like you want everyone, like a nurse or a doctor, to do the right thing in the hospital, it's not always, the right thing isn't always done. So I guess my question for you, Evan, is, has anyone asked you yet? And if not, I'll ask it here for the first time. Could you have done differently? Could you have done better considering the circumstances that AJ Hinch was in? Do you believe that you could have stood against the clubhouse, potentially risked your job, your family? I don't know the answer, but that's what I was feeling as you were telling me the story. I'll let you comment on it.
Yeah, I mean, could I personally do it? I haven't.
Could you stand up? Could you see yourself doing what AJ Hinch didn't?
You would like to think so, right? But I've never actually in my career been a manager, right? In the broader sense, never mind a baseball manager. I did talk to people for the book. The dean of Rice University's business school, who his expertise, or particular expertise, is in corruption, and how does it happen? And look, it is baseball. This is not equivalent to some of the corruption we see in the outside business world, but there are analogs here, right? Why do good people stand aside and allow this to happen? And often it is the case that you have middle managers who believe that you are doing the right thing, that maybe because you sense other people are doing something, and you want to produce a good result. And one of the things that this guy Peter Rodriguez was explaining, his professor, is that really you need explicit communication with your people, if you're a manager, about the perils of your environment. It's not as simple as assuming that everybody innately knows, no, you shouldn't cheat. Like if you can kind of anticipate, all right, we're going to be in this position, you got to have that training ahead of time. You got to have that discussion ahead of time, and that includes above just the middle manager, right? That includes from the very top, Jeff Luno, even Jim Crane. You could throw into that, and the Astros didn't do that, and I think what the book goes on to explain and show is the backdrop of all of this is a really strained environment. It was a quote from somebody who has direct knowledge of the league investigation. Says everybody thought this was this well-oiled machine, but when you looked inside, it was a disorganized mess. The trust between Hinch and Jeff Luno wasn't totally broken, but there were issues. The trust between the players in the front office, for a variety of reasons, there were issues. The trust between AJ Hinch and Alex Cora, there were a variety of issues there. So it really was a complex set of circumstances, but I start the 2017 chapter by saying I don't think you can necessarily absolutely say the Astros were the team most likely to start cheating. I don't think there was a team worse prepared to stop cheating, and that's a function of environment.
Yeah, you just answered my next question. Was this culture, because this is an assistant manager or a bench coach running this whole program with the implicit favor or permission of the entire organization. So was this a result of culture, or was this a result of dysfunction? And I think you just described it's the result of dysfunction.
I think it's both. I think the culture allows it to grow. It was a very bottom line driven culture. It was about wins and profits. They didn't care about much anything else. And look, they're not the only business that's like that. But there's an anecdote in 2016. The Astros had developed, one of their interns, lower level employees, had developed this thing called Codebreaker, which people have heard about. And it sounds like really high tech and advanced. It was just an Excel spreadsheet. So you put in, when this catcher puts down a 2, he throws a curveball. And you do that enough times, it's like a catalog of having the signs, right? So, all right, 80% chance this catcher's probably calling for a curveball if he throws down a 2, something like that. But there were people in the front office who were aware of this. And, one of them said, my first thought wasn't, is this breaking the rules or anything like that? And by the way, you could use Codebreaker as advanced scouting and it wouldn't have been breaking the rules, but in-game usage would be breaking the rules. Mm-hmm. And the guy says, we were focused on data efficacy, right? We were focused on, is this effective? There was no pausing or thinking of could this tool be used for wrongdoing? And so there's a mindset in the organization that contributes to it, and there's also dysfunction, right? And the mindset contributes to the dysfunction. It's layered.
It's funny, as you keep speaking, I keep drawing the parallels. I know everyone's gonna roll their eyes, but the parallels between the Patriots videotaping the other sideline and the Astros videotaping signs, and that gray area in between, using it live as opposed to using it as scouting and developing a plan. It's just so interesting how close you are to being legal and how close you are to being illegal. And it's just all this mess over something that was, listen, if they're stealing your signs, change up your signs, right? I mean, it really should be that easy, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I think, the general consensus and the general reaction I hear, and, maybe you see differently, is when you're watching a sporting event, you want to believe in the veracity of what you're watching. You want it to be true. You want it to be real. And, the fact that the Astros were communicating and doing this entire scheme off the field, right? This was about an electronic setup that had no even pretense of something happening on the field. I think that's what really gets at people. And also the fact that they end up winning the World Series, right? It's a championship team that was willing to do this. But there is something brazen about the extent the Astros went to me, and I think to many other people. You can debate that. It's not undebatable, but I remember, so Ken Rosenthal and I break the story. Same day, John Boy, puts together video showing exactly what we had reported. And I remember watching one of those clips, and there was an 0-2 pitch to Alex Bregman, and I think it was like a curveball, and he hits a home run, and you could hear the bang before it, and I had a bit of a visceral reaction to that, like, whoa, like he knew what was coming, right? And it just, it's kind of a cliche that you hear like the commissioner's office talk about, but it really does strike at the integrity of the game. Like he knew what was coming because the team was doing this off the field cheating scheme. It's for me, it was moving. I think for a lot of people.
Agreed. Of course, pro sports, as we all know, the dollars have only become bigger year after year, decade after decade. And I'm curious, it has nothing to do with necessarily the Astros are winning, but I'm curious what you think, Evan, you think, Lou, and our audience thinks. How were you all in the backyard when you were playing football? So in other words, if someone made a play, would you have called the penalty? Were you someone who towed the line in the gray area? And this is when no money was on the line. So my point is, to me, even though I agree with you, I always wanted to watch the games and trust in them. Like part of the reason why, and I think wrestling's still cool. It's entertainment, but it's not a real sport in the sense of, because, they're deciding on who wins and loses, if you will. So for me, I always loved the raw emotion of what I was watching. And so when that was threatened, I think the way you described it, Evan, it's like, hey, what am I really watching here? What's going on with the game that I love, with the integrity? And so, for me, when I'm hearing all of this, I just think that for the folks playing, and I'm not defending them, but there's so much effing money on the line. Is it really that shocking that they're doing anything and everything? And let's be honest. I'm not saying corporate America is lit up with only terrible behavior and nefarious behavior, but we know it's out there. And when you take a small percentage of corporate behavior times the large GDP that's produced, it's a lot of money. So I'm now of the belief, Evan, that yes, it was about the Astros that you were breaking, but it really could be any team in any sport when you're talking about the money that's on the line. And I'm curious, do you think that you're going to lead the way to other journalists, investigators, and books to potentially come out on other scandals as well?
Look, it's very hard to report on this stuff. It took me 13 months from the time I first found out about it to get a story done. That the book itself then took another 2.5 years, longer than I wanted to. It's hard. It's really hard to get under the hood. And I mean, even beyond just the cheating. But, to your point, yeah, Pat Neshek is on the record in the book. And he says, I always thought if I was a hitter, I would just have my dad sit out in the stands, with like a walkie-talkie or something. Yes, the incentives inside of baseball and outside of baseball are always going to be there for people to cheat, always. And rule breakers are typically going to be ahead of rule makers and those trying to enforce the rules. Those using PEDs were ahead of the commissioner's office. And, frankly, you have no idea today, right? You don't know what you don't know. If they're not catching people, does that necessarily mean that nobody's using? And that's a very hard area to know. And that's really the damage of all this. Like I was saying with Altuve, is you sit there and wonder, I wonder what's really going on. And baseball did that to itself. But yeah, look, there will be another scandal, or at the very least, there will be another cheating scheme. And whether we find out about it, whether reporters get wind of it, we'll see. But people are always going to try to get an edge, and people are always going to go too far in trying to get an edge.
Evan Drellich is the author of Winning Fixes Everything, How Baseball's Brightest Minds Created Sports' Biggest Mess. He's a writer for The Athletic as well. You all know him. I don't have to introduce him to you from that standpoint. Evan, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much. I know you got to get on to something else.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Nice talking.
Thank you, Evan. It was great meeting you.
All right.
So I wanted to take a moment to, of course, thank you, Lou, for setting that up. That was great. I honestly could have talked to him for another hour. I had,
Oh,
like
yeah.
so many other questions and feelings because, let's be honest, right? Like for many of us, probably Evan included, baseball started at the grassroots of your childhood.
Yep.
It really did. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I was playing as a second grader in Sayreville, New Jersey with a Fisher-Price bat, which was tiny, hitting little plastic balls outside of what I thought I called the Yankee Stadium, and that's where it started for me. So it's fascinating. I could talk to him, like I said, for another solid hour. Thank you, Lou. Thank you to Evan. I do want to give a special shout out to my friend Joe. We're going to talk more about 20th Century Baseball and the Shock Me Facebook page. So, Joe and I have recently done some business together, and actually we now own that page. Has over 50,000 proud subscribers. It's amazing baseball content, Lou, so make sure that you and others check it out. But I thought that Joe's question was great. I'm remiss that we didn't get to ask it of Evan, but I'm going to ask you, Lou.
Yeah.
Do you think that the scandal is going to hurt Carlos Beltran's chances of making the Hall of Fame?
Well, let me preface this with, I don't know if Carlos Beltran's a Hall of Famer. So,
well, here's the thing. I will counter you with, I don't know that Scott Rowland's a Hall of Famer, but yet he is.
Well, no, and I'll counter that with, I know Scott Rowland's not a Hall of Famer. So we can go back and forth on this all day. So yeah, no, I understand the standard is changing. And listen, if Scott Rowland's a Hall of Famer, if Harold Baines is a Hall of Famer, we can have a serious discussion about Carlos Beltran. There's no doubt about it. But I think it might. The writers in this instance and the media in general almost seem like an active player in the scandal, unlike the PED scandal, because Evan himself was trying to get this across to Major League Baseball, what was going on, and the writers were kind of working against Major League Baseball's interests, and Major League Baseball was trying to handle the writers in this whole thing. So if the writers are voting on them, we'll see how it works. Listen, if writers are going to get worked up over PEDs, they should get worked up over this. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But yeah, they should get worked up over this, I think.
I would agree. Only time will tell. Really just fascinating. I saw someone's comment right now talking about the Patriots Spygate versus Astros scandals. Mike Rosado says he thinks baseball is expected to hold a higher integrity than other sports due to the history and complexity of the sport. And, to be fair, I used to believe that. But I don't think baseball can do that anymore because of just the way the world is, right? There's so much money on the line. And I think Evan said it. There is guaranteed to be going on at least minimum one other, if you will, scandal at the moment in baseball. We just don't know about it.
But let me counter that with yes and no, because we kind of glorify some other quote unquote cheating, or don't even call it cheating. For example, if they were stealing signs from second base, or they were stealing signs from the dugout, or someone stealing a third base coach's signs from the dugout, we applaud people for that. It's great. Alex Cora himself has been lauded for his ability to read third base coaches and things like that. And we know runners on second base are trying to steal signs and trying to relay pitches. We love that. I think Evan made the correct distinction here, is that that's happening on the field between the teams, as opposed to a team of electronics and scouts and
big, I would say absolutely big difference. Yes. Yeah.
So I think
we were all in Little League. If you could see a sign, that's one thing. But if you're like back there with spreadsheets and pen and paper and video, I mean, that's a whole new level, right?
Yeah, because if you're on the field doing it, that's almost a baseball skill set, being able to steal signs and things like that. You kind of, you admire that. But when you've got outside of the rosters of the teams and the uniform personnel, when it's happening outside of that, I think that's where it becomes a problem. And I hadn't really thought of it that way, but Evan put it very well. I think that's where it becomes a problem, when it's not uniform personnel doing this.
Agreed. I want to just switch topics for a minute with just a minute or two left in today's show. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for Trading Card Therapy. I believe it's episode number 35. It will start at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. And believe it or not, we've just bought our second Fresh to the Hobby T206 collection in as many weeks.
Oh, man.
But to give you a sneak peek of the collection today, Lou, I'm going to show you probably the most interesting item from the collection, but it's not what you think.
Oh, okay.
It's not a T206.
All right.
So there was a few other miscellaneous items. And without further ado, this is a mini Wheaties flip book of none other than Babe Ruth. And it is the first time I've ever had the complete book. You know, people have taken these books apart and sell the pages individually of Ruth.
Oh, really?
But yeah, you know, this is a great little piece of, literally little piece, of baseball history. And it's the first time I had it. Babe Ruth shows you how to hit a home run. I'm going to do an Instagram reel on it on my Instagram account. So if you don't follow me, check me out, Leighton_Sheldon on Instagram.
Oh, I got the wrong one up. Instagram account. Yep. Excellent. So you get a
Really cool, Lou. So that's the original staple. It's all together. Did you ever have a flip book as a kid?
No. Oh, no, I know what a flip book is. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So
oh, you're not going to flip it for us?
I don't want to handle it too much.
Yeah, no, that's what I figured.
But you can see I don't want to like, you know, open it.
Oh, it's photos. Oh,
yeah, it's photos. So it depicts the story of Babe Ruth. It's really cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
First time I've ever had a complete one of these, and I've been doing this a long time.
So
and the craziest thing about this, oh, sorry, go ahead, Lou.
It's funny, people would buy them individually because the hobby usually is not into parts and pieces, right? Usually they'd want a complete book.
You know, I would think so, but I'll tell you the craziest thing about this collection, they just randomly walked in, and we've been having this happen more and more, which is obviously, you know, testament to our team here and the store.
Yep.
These folks didn't make an appointment. They drove from well over an hour away, and they just wanted to get an appraisal / maybe sell it.
We scared Monty too.
And I see J5 out of the corner of my eye. Like, he's so shady. He doesn't say anything to me. Like, we have a meeting up front. These folks walk in. I'm like, J5, what are you doing over there? He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, what? And so I kind of ignore him. And then I get up. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, yeah, it's C206s. I'm like, no shit, it's C206s. Why'd you tell me when I first asked? Yeah. I'm excited just as much as you are. Yeah, it's been pretty wild here. We're thinking about bringing this to opening day, but we're a little bit worried with alcohol involved. Showing it off, you know, like in a live stream from Yankee Stadium, it might get messy.
Wait a second, you're doing a live stream from Yankee Stadium?
Well, I'm hoping to going to opening day with Monty and his lovely wife.
Oh, nice. You scared Monty too. You scared me when you pulled that out because I thought you were going to flip it.
You know, I'll be honest, I wasn't going to, then I did. I'm like, you know what? This is a little bit too sensitive.
Monty a little nervous too.
Yeah, I can see that now. Yeah. Thanks for looking out for us, Monty. So anyway, folks, really appreciate you tuning in today for Leighton's Loft. We have a really great show planned for Vintage Breaks today all day. We just got in a fresh case of Topps 2023 Hobby, a fresh case of 2023 Topps Jumbo. Mm-hmm. Gilmore got NT. We got some other fun stuff coming in as well. New set break listed today. Thanks so much for tuning in to Leighton's Loft. You can find us usually at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time every week. But we made a special accommodation for Evan, and we appreciate Evan making a special accommodation for us and joining our show today. Thanks, everybody.